Ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding to receive the Worshipful Mayor of Burnley, Councillor Cosima Townley. Thank you.
Please be seated. Good evening, everyone. And thank you for coming on a very damp and dank, but typically East Lancashire evening. I'd like to welcome you all to the Mechanics and to thank also the Mechanics for kindly hosting once again our full council meeting. Can I ask everyone present not to talk amongst themselves during the meeting, as this can be very distracting to the debate and to the people who are listening. I'd also like to remind members that when they're able to, they are required to stand when addressing the meeting. We're not expecting a fire alarm tonight, but if one should occur, oops, it's rather loud, could you please follow the officers out of the building to the assembly points. Finally, let us all remember to treat members of the public, elected members and officers with the respect they deserve throughout this meeting and as set out in the Code of Conduct for members. Item 1 on the agenda, minutes of the last meeting held on the 7th of December 2022. Will he, sorry, Mr. Deputy Mayor, will you... I will move those meetings with the addition of Councillor Bill Horrocks to the list of members in attendance. Mr. Deputy Mayor, will you second those minutes as amended?
I'll second those minutes.
Thank you. All those in favour say aye. Thank you. Sorry, I was on the wrong side. Thank you. Item 2 on the agenda, declarations of interest. I'd just like to inform members that Luckman will absent himself at item 6F. Are there any other declarations of interest? None? Thank you. Item 3 on the agenda, Mayor's communications.
There are none, Madam Mayor.
And item 4 on the agenda, public question time.
None have been received, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Item 5 on the agenda, motions to council. Item 5A, accessible streets. Councillor Hurt, will you move your motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the motion, and I would just like to say a few short words, if that's possible, in moving it. This motion came about after I met with representatives of the local talking newspapers who highlighted to me the difficulties that their members have in navigating the streets within our town. I myself face some of those difficulties, being a power chair user a lot of the time, but the difference is I can actually see a lot of the obstacles and difficulties as they approach, and I can get out of the way or move around them. Those with visual impairments can't do that, and this motion really is just about highlighting those issues, asking the organisations who have the responsibility to deal with those issues to actually do so on a daily basis within the town. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hurt. Councillor Graham, will you second that motion?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I second that motion, and I agree wholeheartedly with Councillor Hurt. It can be very difficult sometimes with the proliferation of A-boards and other litter on the streets. So, yeah, I'm happy to second the motion and reserve the right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Any member? Then, do you wish to speak, Councillor Graham, to round up?
No, thank you, Madam Mayor.
There we go. So, all those in favour say aye. 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 Thank you.
Motion is carried.
And the motion is carried. So, moving on to item 6A. Items for decision by Council. 6A, appointments to committees and panels. Councillor Anwar, will you move the report?
I move the report, Madam Mayor.
And Councillor Lishman, will you second the report and move the amended committee memberships for the Liberal Democrat group as set out in the supplement?
I move the report, Madam Mayor, second the report, and also make that request for report.
And Councillor Kelly, I believe you're going to second those. Thank you. Councillor Hosker, will you move the amended committee memberships for the Conservative group as set out in the supplement?
I there move it, Mayor House.
Councillor Whitaker, will you second the amendments to the committee memberships, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I second the amendment.
Thank you. And any member? None? All those in favour, please show. Yep. You can bring them down. You can bring them down now. Thank you very much. 6B. Oh, sorry, the item's carried, as I think you'll all see. 6B, polling station changes. Councillor Ammer, will you move the report?
I move the report, Madam Mayor.
And Councillor Lishman, will you second the report?
Second the report, Madam Mayor.
And do we not have any member? Members? No. Oh, no. Right, all those in favour, please show. Thank you. You can lower your hands. That motion is carried. 6C, Food Safety Delivery Plan. Councillor Hussain, will you move the report?
I move the report, Madam Mayor, and in doing so, I'd like to highlight how important it is that we have a delivery plan to keep the residents of the borough safe. Recently, there's been tragic events close by, so it's important that this plan does get adopted and we can, officers can follow towards it. Thank you.
And Councillor Anwar, will you second the report?
I second the report, Madam Mayor.
Any member? All those in favour, please show. Right. Thank you. You can lower those. That's carried. 6D, Health and Safety Delivery Plan. Councillor Hussain, will you move the report?
I move this report, Madam Mayor.
And Councillor Anwar, will you second the report?
I second the report, Madam Mayor.
Any member? All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Please lower. Again, that's carried. 6E, Lancashire 2050. Councillor Anwar, will you move the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In moving my report, can I add that I have asked officers to include the Lancashire 2050 launch document in the agendas, which was omitted earlier on, so that's been included. And just wanted to say, obviously the document has been to scrutiny. Members have had the opportunity to have a look at the report itself. And in essence, all the report is asking for is that all Lancashire leaders, all of us are working together to come up with a vision, a plan for what Lancashire will look like in 2050. And what we're asking today of this council is that members agree that I, as leader, carry on with those conversations and working with other leaders from across Lancashire. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Anwar. Councillor Graham, will you second the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I second the report.
Any member? Councillor McGowan?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just wanted to put on record that I actually welcome this report. I think that the leader has a big responsibility to open dialogue with other leaders across Lancashire, and just to really note the £50 million levelling up fund that Lancashire's just had. It's obviously the start of things to come. I think collaboration with neighbouring boroughs is a good thing, so long as this council always retains control of what happens for the people of this borough. Thank you.
Any other member? All those in favour show, please show. Can lower those now. Any against? Oh, Maggie, did you mean to leave it up? No. Thank you. That's carried. Thank you very much. Item 6F, arrangements for the recruitment and appointment of the Chief Executive. Councillor Anwar, will you move the report?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. I will move the report, and in doing so, I just wanted to say a few words. I think all of us were a little bit shocked when we heard that Mick is or will be retiring in July. I think we were more shocked that when he announced that he was 60. I think that took us all by surprise. We will get the opportunity to embarrass Mick properly, hopefully at future meetings. But I just wanted to say, obviously, what this report is outlining is that we will need to find, obviously, a successor to take on and carry on the fantastic work that's been started by Mick since he's been Chief Executive. So I move my report. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Anwar. Councillor Graham, will you second the report?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I second the report and I second Councillor Anwar's comments about Mr Cartledge. Thank you.
Thank you. Any member? Councillor Fewings?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to also echo the comments about our CEO, Mick Cartledge, but it's a clarification really in relation to paragraph 5. It says that it will be the leader, deputy leader, another executive member and group leaders from the 3 largest opposition groups. So my understanding that the 3 largest opposition groups on this council do not include the 2 groups that are in a coalition administration together, and I don't think that is the intention of the makeup of the committee. So I just want to clarify, maybe we could be very specific about which political groups are included in that 3 opposition groups, because I don't think that is what is intended.
Well, yes, sorry, I'm going to get the Chief Executive to clarify that, but that's not the way that I've read it or understood it.
Yeah, just for clarity, members, so that will be the Green Party, Conservative Party.
And the Lib Dems. Either way, that will be, basically everybody is going to be included. Councillor Anwar.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Obviously, this was brought up at member structures, and we went through it. So I understand what Councillor Fewings is saying in terms of technically, it's saying that there are 3 the largest opposition groups. But what it is saying is that the 3, what it's referring to, and what we need to approve today, is that there will be 3 exec members, and in addition to that, there will be the leader of the Lib Dem group, leader of the Green group, and leader of the Conservative group. That's what the report is asking for. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's fairly clear. Oh, Councillor Steele, sorry. You did have your hand up previously.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and I'd also like to echo the comments regarding Mick's sterling service to the Council. So thank you again, Mick. I welcome the report. Thank you, Councillor Anwar, on that. There's just 2 points of clarification that I wanted, really, if I could, please. I run a recruitment business in Burnley, and I do recruit into the public sector, including senior level hires. So we're talking C-suite, which obviously this would be. I just would like some reassurance, please, that in terms of the timescale, we think we have enough time to be able to find someone of mixed stature to be able to fill the post, because it does say in point 5 that ultimately we're looking at a 2-week national advertising programme within a national paper for that, which does seem, in my opinion, quite short. And secondly, that we have the budget set and we're quite comfortable with that budget and like to be reassured on that, because what I wouldn't want to happen is if we don't find suitable candidates, then we're going to have to go back to market and essentially spend more money. So I'd just like some reassurance on those 2 points, please, if I could. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Anwar, do you want to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just in response to that, with regards to obviously the 2-week window, when you are advertising in national publications, one of the things that comes with that is obviously cost. So there's a cost implication to that. A 2-week window for a post like this is normal practice, and it has been done previously as well. So I think we're confident that we can get that, obviously, within the budget and within the costs that have been outlined, we can get that in, and hopefully word will get out and we can recruit the right person to the post. In terms of the budget that's been set aside, obviously it is for, we are hopeful that we'll be able to recruit first time round. But if we do have to go back to recruitment, one of the things that we are aware of is that although in terms of Mick will carry on and ensure that we have that smooth transition from one to the other, there are savings within the budget in other posts that are currently vacant, so that will hopefully allow us a little bit of wriggle room. But as I said, within the budget and with the way that we are operating and trying to get this done as smooth and as quickly as possible, hopefully we will, the advert will appeal to people out there and we will get the right candidates. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Anwar. Were there any other? Councillor Kelly.
Madam Mayor, could somebody just qualify point number 7, paragraph 7? It stops in the middle of a sentence. Sorry, it's the teacher in me. I can't miss things like that.
I see. Yes, although recent.
Just in response to that, what that's saying is obviously that's the budget that's been set aside, but obviously the budget that's been set aside is outlined there. But what they've also seen is that in recent, it might not always necessarily cost that much, and that's what it's referring to. That although that is a cap on the budget set aside, it might come in at less.
Councillor Anwar, I don't think that was the problem. I think Councillor Kelly was referring to the fact that the sentence doesn't seem to end. Just although recent what?
That's what Catherine was saying. The recent experience was.
Yeah, I think she was just, it refers to the experience of the market, I believe. Thank you. Any other members? Thank you very much. All those, please show in favour. Any against? That's carried. Moving to 6G, planning, quality of decision making. Oh, sorry, Luckman. Yeah. Could we bring the monitoring officer back in now, please? Didn't realise he'd actually left the building. So, back to item 6G, planning and the quality of decision making. Councillor Chowdhury, will you move the report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the report.
And Councillor Kelly, will you second? Thank you. Any member? Oh, Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everyone. I'd just like to suggest a recommendation to be added to this report. I think we've gone through quite an open discussion about this in member structures prior to this meeting, but just reflecting on the responsibility across the whole council.
Sorry. I'm having to also just monitor people in the room.
Right, okay, sorry. I thought
sorry,
yeah,
Councillor Cunliffe. Didn't mean to put you off your stride.
No, it's okay. So when we look at planning and an overall responsibility, I think it's quite clear from this report that the responsibility is pointed towards the members on the committee. But obviously there's a responsibility towards the officers and also towards the executive who oversee this process as well. So if we are on the balance of going into special measures because decisions haven't gone the way that officers might have liked, then surely there's room within scrutiny for a 360 review of this process, as opposed to one report that's been made by one arm of the tripod, one leg of the tripod against the other leg of the tripod. In some ways, it should be that we're all taking reflection on what our responsibilities and roles are, and the training that's coming towards that is reflected, or that's reflected in the training that we're giving as well. So all I'm suggesting is that scrutiny should look at doing a review of all this section of planning, so that if we are coming up against the fence, if you will, and going into this area where we are at risk of going into special measures, so we can review that going forward, as opposed to just looking at the members making decisions, which I admit are one part of this whole conundrum, but not the only part. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe. Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have had a good read of this report. What it seems to me is it's a little bit of a telling off for the council, if you will. Councillors, should I say, for some of the decisions that have been made in DC. Now, I don't personally sit on development control. However, I understand the process, I understand how it works, and I understand that this council a few years ago passed a local plan which says that there are certain parts of the borough that can be built upon, and I know there's also a lot of residents that are angry about that situation. The composition of this council has changed since that local plan was put into place, and there are councillors sat in this room right now that agree with the residents that certain aspects of the local plan are unacceptable. However, I also note the potential dangers of going into special measures, as the report says, with a planning inspectorate deciding on all planning matters if they are of a sufficient size. I don't think that'd be good for this council, but then again, it's a difficult one for councillors when they're trying to best represent the residents. I think, if anything, it gives a strong case for a review of the local plan. And the last point I wanted to raise is the predicted percentage of 13%, which is over the threshold to move into special measures. I am glad to see and to report to the residents in Aptonwood Park, which was the one outstanding application that was being spoken about at Magnesium Way. Now that has actually been upheld, this council's decision was upheld at appeal, and the appeal, was rejected. We're not actually above the 10%, so I just wanted to make the point, and thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Kelly, I'm going to bring you in because I think probably the exec member can round up.
Thank you. As probably everybody in this room knows, I've chaired planning for a very, very long time, up to probably the last 2 or 3 years. It's always a balance in planning. We have to take note of our local plan. It's what this council wrote and agreed. We've got to take notice of it. As well as that, there is a lot of legalities. Planning isn't just a matter of opinion. There are actually legalities and rules that we have to follow. In saying that, we go back to this balance. It's very easy to say, lots of residents in my ward don't like this, therefore I'm going to object. You've actually got to have some very good reasons to object. The fact that you don't fancy it, or you don't think it looks nice, or your neighbours don't want it, or the people in your ward don't like it, actually are not good enough planning reasons. We talk a lot in planning meetings about good reasons, and we've got to have good material reasons. Everybody always comes back to me at that point and says, well, what's the point of us being there? If we've got to just follow the officer's recommendations and we don't have to take anything else into consideration, we just have to do what we're told. Absolutely not. We've already referenced the Magnesium Court one tonight. That was one that the committee felt very strongly about. There were very good planning reasons against it. It was against our local plan. We considered all those things, and despite the officer's recommendation being for us to pass it, we went against the officer's recommendations and we stuck with it. So we do, if we don't agree, we don't just follow the officer's recommendations, because that seems to be the opinion that we get. You just do as you're told. If you don't do as you're told, we'll end up in trouble and we'll go over this magic 10%. If we have good planning reasons that we can back up, that we think, if we think an application isn't suitable, it isn't good for our town, we will refuse it. But we've got to have the proper reasons. One of the things that's come out recently, there's been a lot of discussions about conditions and material planning considerations. To go on the planning committee, everybody has to have the compulsory training. It can be pretty dry, and sometimes it goes on for hours and hours and everybody starts to drop asleep and lose concentration. One of the things I'd like to bring back, with everybody's interest and permission, we used to do half-hour slots before a planning meeting to discuss something specific. The training that you do at the beginning is all the compulsory legal stuff, but there are things that come up at every meeting, and we could just do with little bite-sized things about specific issues, and I would really like to see those come back. Thank you, Madam.
Thank you, Councillor Kelly. Councillor Fewings, sorry, I'm going to slightly change the order here. Councillor Fewings.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've got quite a lot of things to say on this, which I've talked about previously in Member Structures Group, and would like to echo what Councillor Cunliffe said. I do think that there needs to be some scrutiny around the whole planning process. What we all want, I hope, is that we're making good planning decisions. Unfortunately, it's been my experience as a member of DC in the past that the correct information isn't actually being given to councillors on the committee. And if you happen to not be in a ward affected by a major application, you only have the 1 week between the papers coming out and DC to consider the application. And actually, I think we need an overhaul in general of a process of how major applications work, which is to encourage developers to consult with residents and councillors, a bit like what happened after the information wasn't there on the Redleys Road application, where I went along to that consultation and I heard from the developer who said they'd been not asked to make any improvements to the scheme by planning officers, and had they been asked to do so, they would have included them. So those kinds of comments we get from developers are quite worrying, and it's clear that the whole planning process, not just on the night, on the committee meeting, needs looking at so that we can make sure we're making proper planning decisions. One of the things that I'd like to pick up on, and Councillor McGowan touched upon it, which is just in relation to the Magnesium Way application. This report says if the Magnesium Way doesn't go through, then we'd be at 13.04% and therefore over the threshold for going into special measures. But what it doesn't say is that, you know, giving a report when we're already at 13% shows a failing in our process already, because actually we should have had the report way before it was possible to get to 13% if the threshold was 10% in the first place. So I think we all want to make good planning decisions, and there is a contingent, unfortunately, within the council who think that there is some ulterior motive and people just want to vote against the local plan. That is not the case. I myself have had lengthy correspondence with planning officers, and I think that we've made much better planning decisions as a result of that. So let's look at the whole process, because there are failings here. I can name several others, but I don't want to put the council in a position where judicial reviews could be brought against it. So I think the whole thing needs looking at, and ultimately we need to make better planning decisions as a council, and to do that we all need to work together.
Thank you, Councillor Fewings. Just 2 points there. I believe scrutiny sets its own agenda, so that should go back to the chair, and they can deal with that. And the second point being, on Redleys Road, we did actually get some community benefit, and that was because I myself wrote the letter and followed that up. So I'm afraid not quite true. Now, Councillor Anwar.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a couple of points, just off the, based on a couple of the comments that have been made. I understand what Councillor Fewings is saying about, obviously, it's got to the 13%, and why was this report not brought earlier? And I think the reason for that is through the training, and officers have tried their best to get this message through to all those on the committee, to try and, you know, drill that message home, and it's just not got through. And we've got to this state where it actually has to be a report coming here to full council for all of us to take note that if we don't start to make you know, decisions and have planning reasons for turning these applications down, then we will end up, you know, there will be financial implications, that we won't be a part of that decision-making process. And there's a reputational damage that comes with that as well. But on the point that was made by Councillor McGowan around, you know, with the single application that was referred to, Magnesium Way, with that, we're no longer now over the 10%. Well, actually, what that's telling us is that just based on one application, the principle remains the same. We could end up being in this position again in 12 months' time. And the point of the report is actually to outline that, is that we make the good planning decisions for the benefit of the borough. And then, obviously, again, reference was made to the local plan. And again, on that, you know, the whole of the review of the local plan and the local plan, this, local plan, that. I think those who are asking for a review of the local plan need to be careful what they wish for, because we could actually end up asking for even more. So, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Anwar, and been very patient, Councillor Graham.
Yeah, I am a very patient person. I just want to make 2 points, really by way of a correction to some of the things that have been said. The planning process that we are obliged as a local authority to follow is set by a highly centralised central government, the government that's been in power and made changes to the planning process over the past 13 years. And that planning process is very much on the side of the developers and gives primacy to the local plan and to finding sites for developers for the future. The second point really relates to something that was brought up right at the beginning by Councillor McGowan, I think. Development Control is a regulatory committee with a quasi-judicial role. It is not under the auspices of the executive, nor of the scrutiny committee, nor it stands alone and to one side, just like the taxi licensing, or the licensing committee does. So you can't go back to the executive and ask the executive to change things, or even necessarily go to scrutiny and ask scrutiny to make changes to the system. The system is set, it's a regulatory committee, and the only way of dealing with that is by consideration and more training for members of that committee and more engagement with planning officers who know what they're talking about. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. So, all those in favour? Oh, it's just, sorry, things have gone on so long, I completely lost track there. Thank you. Additional item 6H, council delegations. Members, I've allowed the inclusion of this urgent item by reason of special circumstances in order that the ordinary business of the council can continue to be progressed in the absence of a head of service. This is pursuant of section 100B 4B of the Local Government Act 1972. The report considered by the executive and the altered recommendation has been circulated in the agenda supplement. Councillor Graham, will you move the altered motion, making a recommendation from the executive as it's set out in the agenda supplement?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move the altered motion. I think it speaks for itself. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Anwar. Will you second that?
I second the motion, Madam Mayor.
And any member? All those in favour, please show. Any against? Thank you. The motion is carried. Item 7, reports of committee chairs. 7A, Chair of Scrutiny. Councillor Baker, will you move your report?
I'll
I'll move my report for the full council and take any questions, or I must confess I wasn't at the last meeting, as the vice chair that took it isn't here either, so it might be a little embarrassing, so keep the questions brief, please.
And any member? Thank you. 7D. 7D, Chair of Development Control. Councillor Chowdhury, will you move your report? And any member? You'll note there aren't any reports from audit and licensing committees. That's because the parent committees, the audit is meeting tomorrow, and the parent committee for licensing has yet to meet. Item 8, strategic plan progress reports. From the leader, Councillor Anwar, will you move your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will move my report, and in doing so, I just want to say a few words. And before anybody congratulates me on how comprehensive it is, I just want to say there are reasons for why the report is as it is. Obviously, there's not been a lot of time since the December meeting and the report being published for this time round, but we have still had a number of things that have taken place, as the report makes reference to, particularly the HAF programme that's been run over the Christmas period. But I also want to make mention around education, just make mention of some of the things that are going on across the borough. Particularly, I want to thank some of our high schools, particularly Unity College, for the way that they've actually come forward and supported nearly 50 of our children who've been missing education in the borough, and that's a fantastic effort, the way that they're working with the local authority to do that, making sure that our children are getting that education who live here in the borough. Another thing that I wanted to mention was I was lucky enough to be part of the judging panel to judge those apprentices who have taken on apprenticeships at Burnley College through Themis, and the calibre of the candidates that came forward and speaking to them, interviewing, just shows how much talent we've got here in the borough, and something that we all really should be proud of. And I think later on this month there will be the award ceremony, and it's fantastic to see that. And then also, yesterday had the honour of actually being involved in the graduation ceremony that took place at Burnley College as part of their graduate programme. And the best part of it for me, obviously seeing the graduates here on this stage collecting their degrees, but the thing that made me really proud was when we were walking through, as part of that parade, walking through in the whole of the town, seeing that Burnley is becoming a university town with all those graduates walking through, and actually on Lower St James's Street as well. It's had all that work done and looked absolutely fabulous. And again, I'd like to congratulate all of the members who've been involved in that, but also obviously officers for working on that, particularly the work that's took place through Historic England. And finally, I just want to finish by saying that isn't it fantastic to see Burnley in the news and getting in the limelight for positive things, and how wonderful it was to see Burnley trending through as a result of Bank of Dave on Netflix. Fantastic advert, and one thing that struck me from that was that the warm, kind, friendly place that Burnley is, that's what was shown as part of that TV programme, and that's the Burnley that we all love and recognise. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will take any questions.
Thank you, Councillor Anwar. And yeah, I have to say, I'd recommend anyone to watch Bank of Dave. It's got some really beautiful shots of the borough that have probably never been seen before. It shows us in a completely different light. I'd just like to make all members aware that when they're making their comments, can they please give me the page number and item, please. So, any member? Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. PF4, page 112. Before I actually ask my question, I just want to echo what the council leader said about Bank of Dave. I was lucky enough to go to Real Cinema to watch it for its premiere, and it was great. Put our town in a good light. The question that I've got is this Labour-run council continues to tell residents the budgets are
Sorry, Councillor McGowan, you've skipped a page. Your PF4 is actually the next one under Councillor Graham. Sorry, I was skipping through that.
Oh, sorry, PL1.
PL1.
Yeah, page 112.
Thank you. 112.
Page 112.
112, that's, again, that is under Councillor Graham's. I only have
Sorry
two
about this, Madam
items for Councillor on Councillor Anwar's.
It must be page 110. 110. Sorry.
Yes. 110.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's what it must be. Yeah. Okay. Am I right to go? Yeah. Okay, so this Labour-run council continues to tell residents that budgets are tight and more money is needed from council taxpayers. That's what I'm asking. I'm coming to my question. I'm giving the context before I give the question.
What strategic commitment is it?
Yes, it's
PR1 110.
Yes, PR1, page 110.
110.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, continue, Councillor McGowan, but I think you better get to your question.
Yeah, could I just ask the leader whether the Carbon Literacy Silver Award, which is the latest addition to this training, is being funded out of the original budget, or whether it's going to need additional funding? And if so, is it?
Yes, that's that one.
It's, sorry, yeah, PL5 you're speaking to.
Yeah. Yes, and it's to the exact number of...
yeah, no, but...
Tell him to do his homework.
Do you want...
I'll come back to this.
Yeah,
okay,
I was going to say, why don't we move on? Any other member? Councillor Anwar, how lucky for you. You don't seem to have got anyone today. Very short report, I have to say. Councillor Graham. Sorry. Councillor Graham, will you move your report, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In all that confusion, I'd almost forgotten where I was as well.
I didn't do
yeah,
observations.
I moved my reports, and obviously Councillor McGowan has got lots to ask me, so I'll finish there.
Any member? Councillor McGowan.
Apologies to members for that. So it actually is PF4, page 112. So this Labour-run council continues to tell residents that budgets are tight and more money is needed from council taxpayers, all the while spending thousands of pounds on carbon literature training, which I'm yet to hear called for by any resident. So could I just ask Councillor Graham whether the Carbon Literacy Silver Award, which is the latest addition to this training, is being funded out of the original budget, or whether it's going to need additional funding? And if so, will the budget put aside for the training also cover what I presume will be the Gold Award, which I'm sure we'll get onto next? Thank you.
Any other member? Councillor Graham. Oh, sorry. Do you want to take two questions at the same? Well done. Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I was waiting for the answer. But yeah, I think it's welcome that we've got the climate change officer in PR5. What page was PR5?
PR?
111. PR5. PL5.
PL5.
Sorry.
Where's PL5? Oh, sorry, yes. Carry on.
Yeah. So I'd like to welcome the fact that the council have finally recruited the climate change officer. I was fortunate to meet her today and very excited to get going. Obviously lots to be done, and I think it's fair to say lots is being done by the council to reduce their emissions, and talking with different officers across, there's a lot being done. My frustration is that we're now a year in from the action plan being approved, and we still don't have a report of where we're at. We still don't have an emissions baseline, carbon footprint, we don't know what it is, and we still don't have a target. Are we, as a council, trying to reduce our half our emissions by 2030 and reach net zero by 2040 or 2050? What is the pledge that we want to make so that we are preventing and increasing the health and prosperity of people in the town, and opening opportunities for the green economy across the town? I think this needs to be clear, and I'd like to ask the executive, if they can, executive member, if they can just clarify when we're going to get this report and when we're going to finally get a footprint and get some targets so we can go on this journey with the town and with the business leaders of the town and with the people of the town, so we reduce these emissions for all the benefits that it will bring. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
Thank you. It's quite useful when the second question partly answers the first question, because Councillor Cunliffe has more or less explained why our officers need carbon literacy training. We all need to be more aware of the benefits of the green agenda and doing more to reduce our carbon footprint. We should all take note of what officers are doing and follow that example. I mean, I've said before, I was really depressed at the number of people that the number of councillors that turned up to the carbon literacy training for councillors. There was literally the Greens, Maggie and myself. Anyway, that aside, the Carbon Literacy Silver Award application and the actions that will go with it are within existing training budgets. There's no special amount being set aside for it. Claire Graham, the Climate Change Officer, has only been in post for 2 weeks, so let's give her a chance to start pulling things together and get feet under the table, and we will bring a progress report in due course. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Graham. Any observations? Councillor Fewings.
Thank you, Mayor. It's both PL5, page 111, and PF4, page 112. I just want to echo what Councillor Cunliffe said in relation to it being great to finally get going, but also thank the officers that have worked on the recruitment and the training. I think what's really important to understand in relation to climate change is that it affects our day-to-day lives already. If you look at the flooding that happened in Padiham and the action we have to take to prevent that, that all comes through climate change action and mitigation. And I'm really surprised to hear from certain councillors that they think that we shouldn't be looking into those kinds of high-intensity rainfall and flooding issues in our town, because I actually hear from residents a lot that say they do want us to deal with the flooding of their homes and businesses, and they do want us to invest in the green economy and bring jobs and security to the people of Lancashire, and that's what the green economy will do. So I just want to thank everyone involved really in putting in place this training. I echo Councillor Graham's comments that it's really disappointing that people didn't turn up to that, and I think that's where the waste comes, is when people can't be bothered to come to the training sessions and then come to every council meeting and just raise the same issue over and over again without wanting to learn anything themselves. And I think that's probably the biggest waste of council resources. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Fewings. Any other member? Oh, Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Page 112, PF4, and it's with regards to carbon footprint and carbon literacy. We've just seen two different arguments on side of carbon in terms of carbon footprint and so on. And I welcome what Councillor Cunliffe and Councillor Andy Fewings has said with regards to it. With regards to what Councillor McGowan said, he's said this on a number of occasions, and I think he should clearly come out, him and his party should clearly come out and say they're, not for, and reducing our carbon footprint. Because what I hear on the doorstep is what young people are saying with regards to the future for themselves, for them, and how we need to reduce it. And the council are doing it. On my report, you'll see some information as well. We're doing it with regards to installation of electrical vehicles and so on, so people can use it. So things like that will take time. We'll see the results of it. But constantly having to defend this policy, and coming from a member who's party of the government who are doing this as well, it's just unbelievable. I think he needs to come out and say, look, I'm a denier of climate change. I come from I come from a family, I've got a party family who live in Bangladesh, and Bangladesh is one of the worstest countries to be hit by climate change. I have families who are constantly, every year, they're being flooded, and that is because of climate change, and that's the reality. And if Councillor McGowan thinks that's not, he needs to come out, he needs to put on his literature to say, this is what we are as a party and this is what we're going to do. It's pointless coming in and talking about it and trying to, undo the good work that this council is doing. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Oh gosh, sorry, what's the name of that councillor? Is
Fiona.
it Hall? Sam Hall.
Barton. Gil Barton.
Councillor Barton. Sorry, I need some people. I can't remember.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. PF3, page 112, is all about developing digital strategy so that more people will engage with us as a council. Now, this isn't mentioned in Councillor Graham's report, but one of my residents was so incredibly impressed by the service that she had from the bereavement team that she requested that the council should actually have a compliments and suggestions option on the website. And I am delighted to say that officers have now put it on there. So hopefully anybody who wants to tell us what great work councillors and officers and staff are doing, they now have an easy opportunity to do that.
Thank you, Councillor Barton. And moving on, we'll take the Exec Member for Health and Wellbeing. Oh, do you want to say no? Yeah.
Yes, very quickly. Thank you, Councillor Barton. That's really Councillor Lishman's area, but she's here and she could hear the congratulations.
Wasn't it? We were on observations. Oh, okay, yeah.
I keep saying this. It seems every time we have a full council meeting that the climate deniers in the Conservative group are really dinosaurs, and they need to get wise to the opportunities that the Green Agenda provides for us. Loads of our businesses are signing up for projects that are helping to reduce their carbon emissions and our carbon emissions as a town, and they really need to get wise to what's going on into the future and not keep looking in the past. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And moving on to the Exec Member for Health and Wellbeing, Councillor Margaret Lishman, would you move your report?
Move the report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Hosker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Page 114, PL4. Councillor Richmond, last time we had a meeting at the executive, and they had the executive about funding for a park on Lancaster Drive. I've been there with Mick Cartridge. We saw how badly needed, this park needed money to be sorted out. I want to know for you tonight, can you tell me what's happening towards that park? Is the funding being sorted? Is there any work being done or not? And also, the Bowling Green. Can you give me an update on that, please?
Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. PL4, it's 114, page 115, dips into. I'm glad to see that the Green Group's amendment to this year's outgoing budget has come to fruition, and there's 35 new allotments coming into play. Can the exec member please just expand on this a little bit, on what's written in the report, explaining where these new plots are, and also, probably more importantly, is there room for expansion on this in the coming year's budget so that we can expand this expansion of allotments slowly but surely across the town where the needs are? Maybe that's reflected in the report, the assessment report of the allotments. So if you can expand on that, it'd be good. Also, it'd be good to actually, as we propose this amendment going forward, to actually be kept in the loop on this through emails, just so we know what's going on. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe. Councillor Lishman.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. In response to Councillor Hosker, I cannot give you a detailed response to either of those elements, Councillor Hosker. Anything that's to do with the budget for next year, I don't think we've got to the stage where there are firm recommendations. I am happy to email you about a response when I have a more detailed one available for you, which I hope will be tomorrow. In addition to that, Councillor Cunliffe, most of those plots, well actually no, they're across all of the allotments that we've got. We've had particular problems in one of the Padiham sites where there was a tendency, particularly there, for people to take over plots from other people, so they expanded their size. And what we've done is to reduce them back down to what we think is a manageable size. At the same time, a piece of work has gone on to look at the waiting list and to try and make sure that that's an accurate piece of work. And I'm hoping that something like March time, we will bring an allotment strategy paper to full council for a further discussion, which I think will answer most of the questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Lishman. We'll move to observations. Councillor Hosker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I feel like there's been no money spent at Hapton Wood Park on that park since the 1990s. I feel like we've been fobbed off, and I feel like Hapton Wood Park is getting short-ended stick yet again.
Councillor Cunliffe.
Yeah, just an observation on PE2, page 115 on Burnley Leisure. I think we should refrain from calling it Burnley Leisure and really make sure that it is labelled by its correct name, which is Burnley Leisure and Culture. And I am delighted to be part of that committee with Burnley Leisure, and it's been really good to hear the developments through very difficult times for Burnley Leisure and Culture. And I think it's just really important to just looking at what's been said here is they've got this idea of trying to make Burnley into an outdoor town, and I think this is going towards people's physical and mental well-being by enjoying the great outdoors. And I think one challenge we've got is balancing that with the reduction of green land across the town and making sure that if we are going to make Burnley an outdoor town, that there's enough of it left so that we can enjoy it properly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cunliffe. Councillor Lishman, do you want to come back on those observations?
Just to say, I note Councillor Hosker's comments. I will take those back at the same time as I promised to deal with his previous question. Councillor Cunliffe, I agree and I echo your comments.
Moving forward to the exec member for housing, Councillor Harbour, can you move your report?
Happy to move my report, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Fewings.
Thank you, Mayor. It's PL2, page 116. I will acknowledge in advance that I haven't contacted you about this previously, but I have contacted officers and I feel like I'm at the end of the road now with that. What I would like an update on is in relation to what we're doing with HMOs in the town. It has got to the point now where people are being turfed out of their houses because landlords are chasing the money and they can turn every room in the house into a lettable room. And I'm just really worried about that. And I think that, the provision of services are based on a family home that, that would have maybe 2 parents and some children in it, not 5 or 6 adults. And so the waste services and things like that are just not appropriate. And I think that just the scale of it now is starting to really panic. So I acknowledge that I haven't asked you in advance and I apologise for that. But if we could get an update maybe on your next report, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
Councillor Harbour, do you want to take both questions? Do you want Councillor McGowan, or
Yeah,
do you
you
want to
can
answer
do,
this?
Madam Mayor.
Yeah, Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I mean, nobody in the borough should be homeless. So, this is PE3, page 117. I mean, nobody in this borough should be homeless, and I'm pleased to see the council is actually taking steps to tackle it. But can I just clarify the figure in this report? So it states that we've received government funding of 275,000, the Rough Sleepers Accommodation Programme, But I did have a look at the government website on this, and they provide a different figure. So a total of 448,000 over the next 2 years is explicitly stated as coming to Burnley Borough Council. So could the exec member just please clarify for the council which figure is correct? Because even if we were to just take the 2023 figure, that 275 seems to be inaccurate. So thank you.
Councillor Harbour.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I take on board Councillor Fewings' remarks regarding HMO, and I'm sure colleagues will remember that we raised this issue with colleagues within the council 2 meetings ago, if not 3 meetings ago, and it was agreed then that we would do studies and audits throughout the town about where we are with HMOs and where we are with properties and conditions of properties. I think the majority of us, if not indeed all of us, recognise that there is a need for some HMOs in the appropriate buildings. But what we're seeing now, unfortunately, and I've said this before, is what I call two-bedroom terraced houses, decent two-bedroom terraced houses being converted into 4 rooms. And that's my beef about all this. Bearing in mind, we act as a council, but we also act under government legislation as well. So if government legislation allows this to happen, and you're right, it's not just happening in Burnley, it's happening throughout Lancashire, then we'll take all necessary steps we can to control it and to slow it down. It would be great to get support from the government on this as well, because there is a bit of a bear market going on at the moment regarding private sector. Many landlords, many investors see it as an opportunity to make more money. I know on the old 2-bedroom terrace, 2 up, 2 down, properties round here at one time were making a yield of something like 8 or 10% for landlords, which compared to southern prices is really good. But unfortunately with HMOs, they were being advertised as you could make 16, 80% yields on them. And to me, that doesn't do our residents any good. It doesn't do the reputation of the town any good. According to, with Councillor McGowan's remarks about the actual funding, I haven't got those funding to date, so I can't tell you which one's right. All I can tell you is what's in the report. I believe the 275,000. That, as I understand, it's right, but I take the points you've raised and I'll ask officers to look into that and confirm it for you. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Baker.
Sorry, I'm not sure what I'm referring to. Let's go back to the HMO question.
Page,
okay.
please.
I knew you'd ask me that, thank you. 116 or something like that, and PL2 or PL3 on the next one. But it's back to HMOs, basically. Councillor Graham could probably answer this next one better than Councillor Harbour, because my brain's not as good as it was. But there was a change in planning use from C3, I think it's C3, which is a family home, to C4, which is a HMO type thing. And at the moment, you can change from one to the other, and vice versa, no problems. But we can apply, I believe it's for a Section 4 or something, that means that we have to give planning permission for those that want to change to a HMO. And in fact, even better, we can stop them going back again, sort of thing. So, can the executive member look into that, please? Thank you.
Councillor Harbour.
I'm pleased that Councillor Baker has asked me to actually look into it rather than give me an answer on tonight, because I couldn't give an answer to that. But the issues it raised, I will ask officers for a detailed response. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Ingham.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Page 116, PL2, going back to the Section 4 classification. Currently, if you're turning a residential property into an HMO, you don't actually need to change the standing of it, because technically it's still a residential property, regardless of how many people are living in it. I only know because I've done a lot of research about Section 4, and I'm sure councillors have heard me talk about it many times, about how we as a council, I personally believe, we should be requesting that this be brought in, so we do have some control over the HMOs that are just being built wherever and whenever. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Ingham. Councillor Harbour?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think my colleague's actually referring to Article 4 and not Section 4. But, you know, as I said, you know, we all agreed, I think 6 or 9 months ago now when this first came up, that we would do investigations, we would do research, and we will come back with a report to committee. All colleagues from all parties recognise that it wasn't something that could be done overnight. And, you know, but we will be coming back with recommendations, I think, if not the next meeting, then probably the one after. But those results are being correlated, and the information will come back to all members. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harbour. Observations? Councillor Fewings.
Thank you, Mayor. It's page 116, PL2. I think there's been a lot of discussion about this. I'm going to try and keep it short. I think it was just over 3 years ago I raised with officers that we should be looking at Article 4 to remove permitted development rights for HMOs below 5 dwelling rooms. It's permitted development for that level. Above that, we actually do need planning permission. So that is why I'm asking for an update. When we discussed it 6 to 9 months ago, I also mentioned that it was, I think it was January 2020, I can dig out the emails and forward them on. I acknowledged at the time that there had been changes in the administration and therefore that might have slowed down responses. But I personally have raised this for a number of years and I'm still concerned about it, and I'm happy to share that correspondence and the legal parameters around Article 4. Basically, you can't just give a sweeping Article 4 across the whole town, so we need to target specific streets that are basically being targeted with these 2 up, 2 down inappropriate HMOs, and I would really like us to make some progress on that. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Fewings. Councillor Harbour, do you want to reply?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Very quickly, Councillor Fewings is right. We can't just put a blanket HMO across the town. We have to gather the evidence first, and then wherever the evidence tells us, I'm sure as a council we will do what we can. I appreciate his remarks when he said that he first raised it some 3.5 years ago. I think Councillor Fewings will accept that. I don't think I was in the portfolio at the time, and the first time I've heard about HMOs this time round was probably about 9 months ago. I do accept though that the issue was prevalent within the town before that, and it was just something, I think, in all honesty, we didn't realise just how big the problem was becoming. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Harbour. So we'll move on to the Executive Member for Community and Environmental Services, Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move my report and welcome any questions.
Any questions? Councillor Whitaker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Good evening, everybody, and I hope you're all keeping very well. I'll be brief with this. Thank you. PL1, page 120. First of all, I welcome the introduction of a senior enforcement officer, an education and enforcement officer to street team. I think that's a good idea. May I ask, are these positions, have they been sourced from current council employees who's had a new role responsibility placed upon them, or are they new positions where we've had to recruit from outside of the council, and if so, how much has these posts cost? I have a second question as well, which has actually 2 questions within it, if I may ask that. Thank you very much. Again, it's PL1 and it's page 121. It's regarding the Town Centre Public Spaces Protection Order. Again, I welcome the introduction of this vital tool to combat antisocial behaviour within our town centre. Last week, I was fortunate enough to attend the East Lancashire Antisocial Behaviour Summit organised by Andrew Snowden, who's our Police and Crime Commissioner. Very nice chap, I don't know if you've met him or not. I found it to be really, really useful. Some of the ideas there, a lot of the points are brilliant. This isn't just from just immediately around Burnley, it's from all around East Lancashire, and some of the ideas, especially from, dare I say, Blackburn Council, They've come up with some superb usage of actually publicising their public spaces protection orders clearly, so that individuals who actually enter the town centre are fully aware that they're in this area that's covered by this order. Could consideration be given to looking into installing these signs around our town centre and the entrance to the public spaces protection order? The final bit of it about it is, we all know that the government has got major focus on antisocial behaviour. Could I ask that if we all believe it, could consideration be given to forming some kind of working group so that we could all work together constructively on this issue with all partner agencies, including all political bodies and the Member of Parliament as well. Antisocial behaviour is an issue in our town, and I'd like to see it really, really clamped down on. The Public Spaces Protection Order is a great idea. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Hussain, I think those 3 questions, you take them all together.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Whittaker, for your questions. And first one, with regards to recruitment, I don't know the nitty-gritty. I can send you an email, get the officer to email you to explain. I think it could be somebody who's already been in a post and that's been extended, but don't hold me to it. But yeah, I agree, education is important, and we can improve people's habits with regards to that. In terms of the latter question, and antisocial behaviour within the town centre, I know there's voluntary groups, groups that are already working. Participation Works, they've got youth officers working in the evenings, and see that as doing good work. However, we within the council have noticed that, and we've noticed in order to help young people and to work to reduce antisocial behaviour, it's important that we do something. And that is one of the reasons why we at the council have put forward an application for a youth zone to happen. And I hope all parties welcome that and support that application. It's good to know that we are doing it, and that LCC have not been doing what they should be doing with regards to statutory youth work. So we, from the Borough Council, have taken that initiative, and I hope you welcome that you support that project, the application that we put forward. With regards to working together and so on, we've got a successful multi-agency panel, MATAC. I'm sure you've heard of that. I know you've been to a couple of those meetings. We do that successful work. And the thing with MATAC is we're able to target areas where the issues are happening. So if it's in Padiham, we'll work on that. If it's in other areas of town, we'll work on that. So I think that's good, because it brings communities, it brings people who work within Burnley as well as the police force together and work on that. And I welcome any funding, whether it's from Police Crime Commissioner or central funding, to help us to achieve that. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor Hurt.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's page 120, and it is PL1 around environmental enforcement. I did email Councillor Shah, I did email you about this previously, and it's regarding the fact that in areas where refuse collections happen on a Friday, the cleansing doesn't happen until a Monday. But what that means is that residents can't report any fly tipping at all through the Love Clean Street system on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday or Monday. That includes on private land, council-owned land, green spaces, etc. I didn't get a suitable response from officers on this. I was told that the Love Clean Street system doesn't accept fly tipping reports on private land and other land, which it actually does. But one of my biggest concerns around this is a couple of residents that I've managed to actually get converted to Love Clean Streets have now told me they're not prepared to use the Love Clean Streets app because they've tried reporting fly tipping at the weekend and it told them they can't do it. So why should they bother doing it if the system won't let them? So can I please get you to take a look into this? And even if the jobs aren't actioned until after the cleanser's happened, there should at least be some feedback to residents say that the job report has been accepted and somebody will look at it. Thank you.
Councillor Hussain, do you want to answer that, or do you want Councillor Hosker's question at the same time?
And yeah, with regards to that, thank you, Martin. Yeah, we did get an email, and I did forward on to the relevant officer. With regards to Love Street,
Love Clean Streets.
Love Street Clean Street app, I've used it over weekend, and I only did it last weekend gone, and I got a response straight away saying the council have got it and they will action it. So I'm a bit surprised why a resident can't do it. So I'm a bit concerned with that. So I think that needs to be followed up to see why one user can use it why others can't. With regards to reporting on clean days, I know in the past I've tried to report something, but council can't take the reporting because the round of the cleaning round hasn't finished till the day after when they get the reports. That's one of the reasons they've explained to me. Now, if there is specific, ways that we can work together, I'm sure we can work with our waste brazier and look at how we can improve that. And I'm willing to sit down with yourself and the contractors to look at ways we can, make improvements to that. Okay, thank you.
Councillor Hosker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Page 121, PL1. Shah Hussain, Councillor Hussain. We'll see if you can answer me without coming back to me again. And what I want to know is this. Last time we did a taxi check in Burnley, what was the failure rate? Because I can tell you, I've got it on record, but I want to know what your answer is. Also, when was the last time a taxi check on safety were made in Burnley?
This question. No. PL1 on 1.
Apologies, Madam Mayor, but
2-1.
licensing issues should have been asked of the licensing chair at the time. So it's not within this. It's not an executive function, is it? Licensing.
He's the executive member for licensing.
I think Councillor Hosker, you'll have to take that question to the relevant committee. Do you have it? But you had another question, I believe.
No, I'll leave it. You can never get a straight answer off this party anyway.
Councillor, right. Observations.
I mean, I can respond to it, Madame Mayor, if you want to respond
Well, I think
to
I've
it.
probably given it needs to go to the relevant chairman and committee. Councillor McGowan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just as an observation, something that Councillor Hussain mentioned, he said...
Hang on, sorry. Councillor McGowan, we're not on observations yet.
Oh, I thought we were on observations, sorry. Okay, thank you.
We can now be on observations.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Page and...
PL1, page 120. Well, to be honest, my observation was just about something Councillor Hussain had mentioned when responding to Councillor Whittaker about youth zone within Burnley. Very well supported. I'm sure many members will support it. However, I just wanted to clarify, just in case he wasn't aware, it wasn't Burnley Borough Council who put any submission in for the £8 million worth of government funding. It was the charity of Onside. They're the ones who are working for it. Thank you.
Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's completely wrong. It's not Onside. It's Burnley Borough Council who put the project together and have brought Onside on board to help us with the application. Onside is a charity. They run youth zone up and down the country. We've identified a problem in Burnley, antisocial behaviour. Lancashire County Council have failed our young people, and we have stepped up and we said we can do something. And we have recognised that there's a need. We as a council developed the project, brought people on board, people like Onside, national charity, who've got the experience, We've got the knowledge to run youth zones. We will help to raise money to develop that. It's Burnley Borough Council, it's our initiative, and Onside is our partner. That's the fact. Thank you.
Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick observation on that as well. Again, I just want to say it's regarding page PL1121. Regarding the youth zone, it was the Councillor Hussain mentioned to me. I just want to say I fully support this youth zone application, as do all of us within this council chamber. I think it's an absolutely fantastic idea, and if we are successful, Burnley, in getting this over £8 million worth of central government funding, we should all applaud it, we should all support it, and we should all be behind it. It's going to be a fantastic asset for this town and the surrounding villages, etc. And I hope we really do get it. It's going to be a fantastic project. Thank you very much.
Any other observations? Councillor Fewings.
Thank you. It's page 120, PL1. It's just really just to clarify that I don't think this is just a single user issue in relation to the Loves Clean Streets apps and the reporting. We've had that confirmed several times that actually it is designed that you can't report it during that period of time, and we're now in a situation where residents in Trinity Ward are finding that they can only report fly tipping and issues for 3 out of 7 days a week, which is just absolutely an unacceptable position. So I just want to make it very clear that that needs to change. And then I suppose just to pick up again on the same number, but page 121 in relation to the youth zones, it's great to hear so much cross-party support for the youth zone. I think everyone's in favour. It's just such a shame that the government over the last 12 years cut services to the bone and all the youth provision had to be closed in the first place, and now we're having to play catch-up.
Councillor Hussain.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I welcome comments made by Councillor Whittaker. I thought that was very positive, and I welcome. Thank you, Councillor Whittaker. I think it's gone. And with regards to Love Street clean-up, I think I'm not trying to knock what Councillor Hurt said. I will work with Councillor Hurt and look at how we can improve it. I take on board what Councillor Fewing said with regards to the application, and I think we need to improve it. If we can't use it over the weekend, it's not good. We need to look at how we can improve the service. So I'm more than willing to sit down with officers and Councillor Hurt and look into that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Hussain. Moving on to the Executive Member for Economy and Growth, Councillor Townsend, will you move your report?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move my report.
Thank you. Questions? Councillor Cunliffe.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've got 3 questions. Hopefully it won't take too long. Firstly, on page 123, PR3, there's 2 questions under that. First one about Town to Turf. Just want to ask the member, just prior to this, there was what seemingly like was a consultation process, and there was an information day. It seemed more like it was an information day in the end. So, as part of democracy, I think consulting with our members with our residents is fundamental to things going ahead, especially with such a big project like this. Can you just maybe shed some light on that and what really happened and why there wasn't a wider consultation? And particularly we're concerned about the residents of Bruncher who take the brunt of this, and obviously there's an awful lot of concern around match days around there, even though we all enjoy the joy that BSC is bringing us at the moment. I think it would be good to just have a bit of an explanation around the consultation. Second question is on Pioneer Place, which is on the same page, on the PR3. Obviously, it's causing quite a bit of disruption for SMEs, small businesses, shops, etc., especially around the Standish Street area. And it's not just, it's doubly impounded by the current sort of economic crisis, inflation, and all that means to small businesses and difficulties. So could you just maybe explain a little bit on what's been done to assist those small businesses in the vicinity of Pioneer Place as this whole of the process for building Pioneer Place takes place, so that they can have some mechanisms to survive this difficult period? And thirdly, I'm going on page 127, PR6. This is on the UK Shared Prosperity Fund. And I think, just start by saying, there's basically, with a lot of these council projects, there's not much wiggle room, unfortunately. We're not allowed much wiggle room, but this is one where there's quite a bit of wiggle room. And it's a 3-year project, and I think there was, in the first year, which we're coming to the end of the first year, 22 to 23, there was about 400,000 available. And in the second year, there's 846, and in the third year, there's it's up to 2.2 million in the third year for 2024-25. So as part of this shared prosperity fund, there's a lot of SLAs that have got to go out, service level agreements that have got to go out to partners. So I'm just wondering, at the moment, obviously there was a bit of clarity given to us through what went out on the first year. But on the second year and the third year, obviously we're going into the second year. So is there, how many SLAs have been sort of contracted for the second year? And particularly with focus on sort of, is there any of those going to assist in rural areas? And also, sort of secondly, how is all this going to be affected by inflation and the subsequent sort of costs or rising costs of inflation that are putting onto these projects? We're hearing around the country that some councils are having to pause projects that are going on. So how do we counter that possibility that inflation might increase the costs on some of these big projects as we go forward? It'd just be good to get a sense of prior to sort of what's going, prior to the next full council, of where we're going on this, so that we can have a good sort of scrutiny on this, so that we are using the wiggle room as much as we can to get the best out we can for the people of the town. Thank you.
Councillor Townsend.
Sorry, it was a bit long.
That's okay. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Firstly, I'll take them in the order that you presented them, Councillor Cunliffe. In terms of the Town to Turf project, I think in an ideal world, the consultation perhaps would have been wider than what it was. But in terms of where we are, I think everybody understood that the Levelling Up Fund and the criteria that we were given to actually spend the £20 million has to be done within a specific time scale. And basically, they had to be oven-ready projects, as they were called, basically to get the spades in the ground. So by the time the scheme was designed and then the time to get out to people, it certainly wasn't ideal, and it wasn't something that perhaps in a perfect world we would plan for, but those were the criteria that we were given by government. But I have to say as well that it's not a new project, it's not brand new. This was the work from the roundabout up to Belvedere was basically identified in the town centre and canal side master plan of 2018, and went out for very wide consultation at the time. So basically there was some, but I have to say that, I represent Brunshire. I do know that it is concerned what's going to be happening along that stretch of road for the next 18 months. But it's a necessary evil to improve the infrastructure of the town, something that will be there for 50 years, and we will try and mitigate all impacts. In terms of Pioneer Place, I'm not quite sure what he's driving at in terms of if Pioneer Place is detrimentally hurting those businesses around the Standing Street area directly, then we do need to know about that and understand how we can improve that situation for those businesses. I think the other thing that's happening in the area, though, is the Lancashire County Council started repair of the bridge on the culvert, and that's what's really causing some of the heartache down there. Now, that is a Lancashire County Council issue. I only got to know about that extremely late, and that is having an impact on everybody in that area, including the development of Pioneer Place itself. And finally, coming to the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, I don't know where Councillor Cunliffe thinks that there's a great deal of wiggle room in how we spend that money, because I think everybody was aware a few months ago when we put the bid together, we had to be very specific in terms of how the money would be spent so we could actually win the bid from government. So, and that's how we're going to be measured. In terms of the service level agreements that we are signing up, and I think I've now signed myself 3 or else 4 off as we go through the process, with some more in the pipeline. But the multi-year, we're not just basically signing them through to the end of the first financial year. We're basically giving long-term certainty to the partners that we're dealing with, so they can basically develop their programs for the full 3 year cycle. In terms of the final point, inflation, bottom line is the budget is the budget. The fixed amounts that we've been given by government, and we all know that inflation is spiralling out of control at the moment at 10% per annum. So you could see that by the end of the actual time scale of 3 years, the value of money could be actually 20% less than what it is today. So that is a major problem. But ultimately, those are the cards we've been dealt, and those are the ones that we have to deal with. Thank you very much, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. Councillor Kelly.
Sorry. Page 123, PR3. 2 questions. One about the town to turf. When we had the COVID testing on the car park, the one next to Gala Bingo, the car park wasn't in use. Since that's moved, the car park's been very, very well used, and that is part of our income. Will there be any compensation for us for losing that car park? Because I noticed today that it's full of the contractors' buildings and works and whatnot. Second question about Pioneer Place. Obviously we can all see the cinema as we go past, and it says here the steel works are completed, the cinema's fully clad, etc., etc. Restaurant units are constructed, ready for cladding. Have we got anybody, I know you can't tell us names, but have we got any firm promises of anybody actually going to come into these buildings? Because if they're going to lie empty, it seems a bit of a waste of time. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Townsend, do you want to?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Kelly, for your questions. In terms of the car park, I'm aware that Councillor Lishman's report actually does deal with that element. But what I will say is that, yes, it is being reused now by LCC. And yes, it can be seen as a loss of income, but as well, really, if people can't park on there, they don't not park anywhere else. They do tend to go elsewhere in the town centre and park. So although we expect that there will be some impact on car parking, I would hope that it's not certainly to the fact that it goes from 100% down to 0, it's just displaced to other car parks. In terms of the eateries in Pioneer Place, again, things are subject to negotiation, but let me just say I am extremely confident that all of those eateries will be filled at the point where Pioneer Place opens. It is all going through legals and negotiations, but I think we can all look forward to a grand opening to basically enjoy and celebrate with the cinema and all the eateries. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Whittaker.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. PR3, page 124. It's just a quick one. I'm hoping that the executive member will agree that it's great to see the improvements that have been made around our town at this moment in time, particularly in the St James Street heritage zone area. Mention's been made of that in that report, which I think is brilliant, especially, you know, the recently new signage that has gone up outside the shops and the ribbon cutting, etc. I think it's personally great, and I'm also really glad that Heritage England, Historic England rather, are doing this with the £1.8 million that have been funded from central government, obviously. It's part of the town's core. It's got major strategic value for us. It's going to add to our economy. And basically, I'd just like to say I think it's fantastic, and I hope the member will agree with me.
Is this an observation, Councillor Whittaker, or a question?
It was a question. Will the member agree with me that it's good? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Councillor Townsend.
I think it's the easiest question probably I have tonight. I will absolutely say that I'm as thrilled as he is with the work that's going on down St James Street. Ever since I've been on the executive for a decade, it's been an objective to try and get some work down there and some funding, and absolutely delighted that we managed to secure Historic England funding. I had the great delight to be down there and cut the ribbon on the first shop front just before Christmas with Historic England. They were impressed by what they saw as well, and I'm hoping that it convinced them that perhaps they could give us a little bit more cash so we can do even more buildings down there. But it's not just about the public investment going in. The public investment is now sucking in the private investment down there, and I think it's a joy to see. And when you've joined that up with Town to Turf as well, and the On the Banks project, the work that's gone on in the town centre and all the public realm that had plenty of criticism at the time, but when you see how it's all going to be joined up over the last decade, I think, you know, every councillor in here should give themselves a pat on the back for making some tough decisions at the time, but they're going to stand this borough in good stead for many years to come. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Townsend. Observations? None? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 9, questions under Council Procedure Rule 10.2. Questions by members?
None have been received, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. And that concludes this evening. Thank you very much, members. It's been a joy to chair this evening. And safe home.
Members of the Council, ladies and gentlemen, please be upstanding. Thank you.